In 1969, America landed men on the moon using computers weaker than a modern calculator. That was 57 years ago. And somehow, with all our smartphones, artificial intelligence, and reusable rockets, America still cannot send astronauts back. Meanwhile, China has launched 67 successful space missions in just 5 years. NASA's Artemis program has been delayed 6 times. SpaceX's Starship has exploded 4 times. And now China says they will plant their flag on the lunar surface in 2026. Keep watching, because you're about to discover how China built the most ambitious lunar program in human history, and why America might be watching from Earth when it happens. Did you know the moon contains resources worth an estimated $15 trillion? We're talking about helium-3, a fuel source so powerful that just 40 tons could power all of Earth for an entire year. We're talking about rare earth metals, neodymium, europium, tantalum, the exact elements needed to build every smartphone, electric vehicle, and wind turbine on the planet. And we're talking about 600 million metric tons of water ice locked in permanently shadowed craters at the lunar South Pole. Water that can be split into oxygen for breathing and hydrogen for rocket fuel. Whoever controls these resources controls the future. The original space race was about ideology, capitalism versus communism. America won that battle, but this new race is about something far more tangible: resources, territory, and economic dominance for the next century. In 2019, China became the first nation in history to land on the far side of the moon. In 2020, they successfully returned lunar samples to Earth, only the third country ever to achieve this. And in 2024, China's Chang'e 6 mission retrieved samples from the lunar South Pole, the most resource-rich region on the entire moon. This isn't just exploration anymore. This is colonization. And China is moving faster than anyone predicted. Under the Outer Space Treaty of 1967, no nation can claim sovereignty over celestial bodies. But the treaty says nothing about resource extraction. It says nothing about effective occupation. International legal scholars warn that whoever establishes permanent presence first will create de facto control that no piece of paper can reverse. China understands this perfectly. That's why they're not just planning a visit. They're planning to stay. To understand why China is pulling ahead, you have to understand what went wrong in America. NASA's Artemis program was originally designed to return astronauts to the moon by 2024. That deadline came and went. Now the earliest possible landing is 2027, and many experts privately say 2028 is more realistic. The numbers are staggering. NASA's Space Launch System costs $4.1 billion per launch. That's not a typo. $4 billion to fly once. Compare that to SpaceX's Starship, which is designed to cost just $10 million per launch. But here's the problem. Starship still hasn't completed a successful orbital mission with crew capability. Every test flight has taught valuable lessons, but the clock is ticking. Then there's Boeing's Starliner, which received billions in development funding and still cannot reliably transport astronauts. In 2024, Starliner actually stranded crew members on the International Space Station due to technical failures. Private lunar landers haven't fared better. Multiple missions crashed or failed before reaching the surface. The fundamental issue is fragmentation. NASA, SpaceX, Blue Origin, and Boeing are all competing with different visions, different timelines, and different priorities. Congressional funding changes every 2 to 4 years based on political winds. There is no unified American lunar strategy. China has one plan, one budget, one goal, and zero political gridlock. This isn't the first time America tried and failed to return to the moon. NASA's Constellation program from 2005 to 2010 promised a lunar return by 2020. It was canceled after cost overruns exceeded $9 billion. The Artemis Accords, signed in 2020 as an international partnership to accelerate lunar exploration, seemed promising, until China and Russia refused to sign, creating a fractured path forward. Now, 20 different contractors are pulling in 20 different directions, while Beijing operates with military precision and centralized authority. China's target is the lunar South Pole, specifically the rim of Shackleton Crater. Why this exact location? Because the crater floor sits in permanent shadow, preserving billions of years of accumulated water ice at temperatures below -200 degrees Fahrenheit. But the crater rim receives almost constant sunlight, perfect for solar power generation. It's the single most valuable piece of real estate in our solar system. The vision is called the International Lunar Research Station. By 2035, China plans to operate a permanent crewed base on the lunar surface. But before construction begins, they need to establish presence. That's where the 2026 mission comes in. Here's how it works. The Long March 10 rocket stands 92 meters tall, nearly as tall as the Statue of Liberty. It generates 2,678 tons of thrust, comparable to the legendary Saturn V that carried Apollo astronauts astronauts to the Moon. 2 rockets launch in sequence. The first carries the Lanyu lunar lander to orbit. The second carries the Chang'e crew capsule with 3 astronauts. The spacecraft dock automatically in lunar orbit, a technique China perfected while building their Tiangong space station. The Chang'e capsule is designed for reusability, capable of flying up to 10 missions. The Lanyu lander uses a 2-stage design, supporting 2 astronauts on the surface for more than 6 hours. Every single component has already been tested individually. Integration is the final step. Compare this to NASA's architecture, which requires 4 separate launches and a complex SpaceX Starship docking procedure just to achieve the same result. China's approach is simpler, more reliable, and already proven in subsystems. The total program cost? An estimated $15 billion. NASA's Artemis program has already spent $93 billion. Let's get into the engineering that makes this possible, because the technology China has developed is genuinely impressive. The Long March 10 represents a complete redesign of Chinese rocketry. Previous Long March variants were workhorses, reliable but not exceptional. The Long March 10 is built specifically for deep space missions. Its first stage uses 7 YF-100K engines, burning kerosene and liquid oxygen, generating enough thrust to lift over 25 tons to lunar trajectory. The engines use staged combustion, the same technology that powers SpaceX's Raptor engines, operating at extreme pressures that extract maximum efficiency from every drop of propellant. The Chang'e crew capsule borrows design elements from both American and Russian spacecraft, while incorporating innovations. Its heat shield can withstand re-entry velocities of 11 kilometers per second, far faster than returning from low Earth orbit. A unique 2-part design separates the crew cabin from the service module, allowing the cabin to be refurbished and reflown, while the service module is replaced each mission. But the most critical technology is the Lanyu lander itself. Landing on the Moon is extraordinarily difficult. There's no atmosphere for parachutes or aerobraking. You're essentially a controlled crash using nothing but rocket thrust. The lander must touch down within 100 meters of pre-positioned cargo to access supplies and equipment. China's guidance system uses terrain relative navigation, comparing real-time camera feeds against orbital maps to achieve pinpoint accuracy even in the rugged terrain near Shackleton Crater. The landing legs incorporate crushable aluminum honeycomb to absorb impact energy. The ascent stage sits atop the descent stage, ready to launch the astronauts back to orbit once their surface mission is complete. It's elegant, proven engineering applied at the edge of human capability. Building rockets is just the beginning. China has constructed an entire ecosystem to support lunar operations. The Wenchang spacecraft launch site on Hainan Island received a $2 billion expansion specifically for lunar missions. 2 brand new launch pads can support the rapid turnaround needed for dual launch missions. The location near the equator provides extra velocity from Earth's rotation, saving precious fuel on every flight. The Tiangong space station, now fully operational with 3 modules, serves as both training facility and technology testbed. Astronauts practice rendezvous and docking procedures. Life support systems are refined through months of continuous crewed operations. Every lesson learned in low Earth orbit gets applied to lunar mission planning. Communications posed a unique challenge. The Moon's south pole is barely visible from Earth, and during lunar night, direct contact becomes impossible. China's solution was Kuekiao-2, a relay satellite launched in 2024. Positioned in a special orbit around the Moon, it maintains constant contact with both Earth ground stations and the lunar surface, enabling real-time communication during the entire mission. The ground network spans 3 continents. Stations in China, Argentina, and Namibia provide 24-hour coverage regardless of Earth's rotation. When astronauts step onto lunar soil, mission control in Beijing will see and hear everything in real time. The cargo missions are already scheduled. Chang'e 7 launches in 2026 to scout landing sites and deliver initial equipment. Chang'e 8 follows in 2028, carrying construction robots and 3D printing systems that will begin building permanent structures using lunar regolith. Over 15,000 engineers work exclusively on lunar programs across more than 200 private aerospace companies supporting CNSA, 4 times the number from 2018. 18 new astronauts were selected specifically for lunar missions, undergoing intensive training in a Gobi Desert facility that simulates the harsh lunar environment. The scale of investment exceeds $50 billion over 10 years. This isn't a program, it's a national priority. The economic implications extend far beyond government spending. China projects 500,000 new aerospace jobs by 2035. 30 Chinese universities now offer specialized lunar engineering degrees that didn't exist 5 years ago. An entire lunar economy ecosystem is emerging. Manufacturing, robotics, artificial intelligence, advanced telecommunications, all feeding into the broader goal of permanent human presence beyond Earth. The vision extends even further. By 2040, China has announced preliminary plans for lunar tourism, with ticket prices projected around $150 million. Orbital hotel concepts are already in development. Lunar manufacturing facilities could produce perfect semiconductors and fiber optics in the zero-gravity environment, then ship them back to Earth. Some planners describe future Earth-Moon trade routes as the new Silk Road, a commercial highway that transforms humanity's relationship with space. China frames this expansion as environmental salvation. Moving heavy industry off Earth reduces pollution. Solar power stations on the lunar surface could beam clean energy back to our planet. The official message is clear. Conquering the moon means saving Earth. None of this is easy. The moon is trying to kill you in a dozen different ways. Lunar dust is perhaps the most underestimated threat. It's not like Earth dust. 4 billion years of micrometeorite bombardment has shattered surface rock into particles with razor-sharp edges. The dust is electrostatically charged, clinging to everything: spacesuits, equipment, solar panels. Apollo astronauts reported the smell of spent gunpowder after dust infiltrated their cabin. Extended exposure damages seals, clogs mechanisms, and could cause serious lung problems. China has developed specialized suit coatings and airlock systems to minimize contamination, but no solution is perfect. Radiation poses an even greater long-term risk. Earth's magnetic field shields us from solar particle events and cosmic rays. The moon has no such protection. A single solar flare could deliver a lethal radiation dose to unprotected astronauts. Chinese spacesuits incorporate multi-layer shielding, and mission planners have positioned emergency shelters near the landing site. But 6 hours on the surface means 6 hours of exposure that would be unthinkable on Earth. Temperature extremes challenge every system. In sunlight, surface temperatures reach 260 degrees Fahrenheit. In shadow, they plunge to negative 280 degrees Fahrenheit. Equipment must function across this 540-degree range. Batteries, electronics, and moving parts all behave differently at these extremes. Thermal management systems add weight and complexity to every component. Chinese officials claim all problems are solved in simulation. Real-world testing comes in 2026. The margin for error is zero. There are also financial pressures rarely discussed in official channels. China's economy faces headwinds: a real estate crisis, youth unemployment exceeding 20%, and slowing GDP growth. A $50 billion lunar investment competes with urgent domestic needs: healthcare, pensions, crumbling infrastructure. Some economists question whether the timing makes sense. The program's true cost remains classified. Because the People's Liberation Army manages much of the space infrastructure, military budgets absorb expenses that would appear in civilian program accounting elsewhere. Independent analysts estimate actual spending may be 2 to 3 times official figures. One catastrophic failure, astronaut deaths broadcast worldwide, could derail the program for a decade and trigger political consequences inside the Communist Party. But China has accepted these risks. The potential rewards of lunar dominance simply outweigh the costs. So where does the program actually stand today? The Long March 10 has completed structural testing, with the first orbital test flight scheduled for late 2025. The Mengzhou capsule flew an uncrewed orbital test in December 2024, validating heat shield, performance, and recovery systems. The Lanyu lander is in final assembly, with landing legs tested under simulated lunar gravity conditions. Crew selection is finalized. The chosen astronauts are currently training at a specialized facility in the Gobi Desert, practicing surface operations in terrain that mirrors the desolate lunar landscape. They're learning to collect samples, deploy scientific instruments, and respond to emergencies, all while wearing prototype suits that restrict movement and visibility. Not everything is on schedule. Rocket engine certification has fallen slightly behind, and some analysts suggest the 2026 target may slip to early 2027. International partnerships have been complicated by geopolitics. Russia's involvement has decreased due to Western sanctions related to Ukraine. There's also internal friction as Chinese private space companies lobby for larger roles in a program dominated by state enterprises. Quality control concerns have emerged in leaked reports, suggesting rushed timelines may be creating safety shortcuts. The pressure is immense. As one anonymous CNSA engineer told Reuters, failure is not politically survivable. NASA Administrator Bill Nelson has acknowledged reality. We are in a space race whether we like it or not. Chinese state media is less subtle, proclaiming that the moon will welcome its first Chinese citizens within 24 months. Former NASA Deputy Administrator Lori Garver summarized the situation perfectly. China is executing. We are debating. The world is choosing sides. Russia remains fully committed as an ILRS partner despite Western isolation, contributing lunar rover designs and nuclear power technology. Pakistan signed a lunar cooperation agreement in 2024 and will send a payload on Chang'e 7. Venezuela, Belarus, and South Africa have announced support for Chinese peaceful lunar development. 10 additional nations, mostly from the global south frustrated with American space dominance, are in talks to join the Lunar Research Station. The response from America's allies has been urgent. Congress authorized $3 billion in emergency Artemis acceleration funding. Japan is fast-tracking its SLIM 2 mission while deepening NASA partnerships on the Lunar Gateway Station. India pushed Chandrayaan-4 to 2027, explicitly citing Chinese competition. Australia's AUKUS alliance now includes space domain awareness, focused on monitoring Chinese lunar activity. The European Space Agency faces internal division. Some member nations want ILRS partnership, while others remain committed to Artemis. This fracture could reshape international space cooperation for decades. Legal frameworks are already crumbling under the pressure. The Outer Space Treaty of 1967 never anticipated resource extraction or permanent bases. United Nations debates over updating space law remain deadlocked. Insurance markets at Lloyd's of London created an entirely new lunar risk category for geopolitical disruption. Defense analysts warn that whoever controls the high ground of the moon gains unprecedented advantages: surveillance capabilities, communication dominance, and strategic positioning that could reshape global power dynamics. The militarization concerns run deeper than most realize. China's lunar program operates under the People's Liberation Army, meaning dual-use technology development is guaranteed. A permanent lunar base could host sensors capable of monitoring all Earth communications and military movements from a position impossible to attack or disable. Some strategists compare it to the ultimate high ground, a surveillance platform 240,000 miles above any potential adversary. The implications for Taiwan have not escaped attention. An emboldened China, flush with the prestige of conquering the moon, may accelerate its reunification timeline. Space nationalism already fuels domestic propaganda. Success on the lunar surface would legitimize Communist Party rule for a generation. Here's what we know for certain. China says 2026 is locked. NASA says 2027 at the earliest. SpaceX keeps promising next year. One nation will plant their flag first. One will establish the first permanent presence. One will write the rules for how humanity expands beyond Earth. The decisions made in the next 24 months will echo for centuries. The $15 trillion in lunar resources aren't going anywhere. The helium-3 will still be there. The rare earth metals won't disappear. The water ice has waited billions of years. But the question of who controls access to these resources, who builds the infrastructure, who sets the prices, who decides the rules, that question gets answered by whoever arrives first. What's remarkable is that this isn't really about China versus America. It's about humanity's next great leap. 55 years ago, we proved that landing on the moon was possible. Now we're proving that staying there is possible. Whether the first permanent lunar citizens speak Mandarin or English, they'll be opening a door that benefits everyone on Earth. The technology being developed, advanced life support, radiation shielding, in situ resource utilization, will eventually enable human settlements throughout the solar system. The engineering lessons learned will transform how we approach extreme environments, renewable energy, and sustainable closed-loop systems right here on Earth. We're watching the most important space race since Apollo unfold in real time. So what do you think? Will China actually land astronauts on the moon before America returns? Or is this an elaborate display that will ultimately fall short? The 2026 deadline is approaching fast, and the entire world will be watching when that Long March 10 lifts off from Hainan Island. Drop your prediction in the comments below. I want to know where you think this race ends. And if this story made you see the new space race differently, hit that subscribe button and tap the bell. Because when that landing happens, whether it's 2026 or 2027, whether it's China or America, you'll want to know first. The moon has been waiting for us to return. The only question left is who gets there first.